Hey, welcome to 12 Tone. Today we're going to talk about Neo-Riemannian analysis. I know that sounds like the final boss in a video game about homework, but trust me, it's actually pretty simple and it's really cool. And like with most cool things, we have to start with a little history. We mentioned Hugo Riemann all the way back in our tonic function video. He's kind of the father of modern functional harmony, and a large part of his work involved an idea called dualism. Put simply, this is the idea that major and minor triads are sort of mirrors of each other. A minor triad is just an upside-down major one. Combining that inversion with various transpositions gave Riemann a set of transformations that could convert from one chord to another. Neo-Riemannian theory takes the idea of triadic transformations and runs with it. It leaves dualism behind in favor of its own voice-leading inspired operations. There are three basic transformations, each preserving two of the three notes in the triad. The first is the parallel transformation, abbreviated P, which maintains the root in the fifth, so this F major would become F minor, and vice versa. The second transformation is the relative or R transformation. This evokes the idea of a relative major and minor, which we've covered before. Here we take the fifth of our major triad and move it up a whole step to become the root of a minor triad. And again, this works in reverse too. The last transformation is kind of the opposite of that, whereas with the R transformation, the fifth of the major triad becomes the root of the minor one. In the leading tone or L transformation, the root of the major triad becomes the fifth of the minor one, moving down a half step to its own leading tone in the process. And that's it. Those are the rules. Well, okay, there's one more thing. Compound transformations. That is, how many of these transformations does it take to get from one chord to another? Well, let's try some. We'll start on A major. If we do a parallel transformation, we get A minor, a relative one gives F sharp minor, and a leading tone gives us C sharp minor. These are the closest relations A major has. And that makes sense. This one is modal interchange, borrowing the one chord from the parallel minor, and these three together make up tonic function in the key of A. Of course they're related. Now what happens if we transform these again? If we do an L transformation to this one, we get D major, and an R transformation to this one gives us E major. And those again make sense. They're the 4 and the 5 chord. But what about the others? Well, if we go quickly through and apply the rest of the transformations, we get something interesting. These are all the major chromatic medians of A major. We talked about chromatic medians back in our Q&A video, but as a refresher, it's a chord whose root is a third away from your original chord, but with one or more notes that should be common tones chromatically altered. For instance, this F major has a C natural, whereas A major has a C sharp. So that's 2 transformations. What about 3? As you might imagine, we have a lot of options. For instance, this path takes us to the 2 chord, this one takes us to the hexatonic pole where every note is a half step away from a chord tone in our original chord, and this one, called a slide, takes us to the minor triad with the same 3rd degree. But more than any specific path, what I find fascinating is what happens when we look at them all together. Check it out. Yeah, that's a lot of minor triads. In fact, if we add in this row, we have every single... Wait. No, we don't. We've only got 11. There's no G minor. You need 5 steps to get there. So what does that mean? That the furthest thing from a major triad is the minor triad a whole step below it? Maybe. It'd make sense. After all, there's no way to voice lead from one to the other without jumping a third in one voice. That seems pretty distant to me. So is this the best way to think about harmony? Well, not necessarily. For instance, this tells us that in the key of A major, B minor and C minor are equally distant, but that's clearly not true. One is the diatonic 2 chord, while the other is borrowed from the parallel Locrian mode. Neo-Riemannian analysis is just a tool. It gives us a great way to think about chord relations without reference to a tonal center, but sometimes that's not what we need. It also doesn't really work on 7th chords. You need more complicated structures to account for those. Still though, it provides some valuable insight into late Romantic and other post-tonal works, and besides, it's a lot of fun. And that's Neo-Riemannian analysis. Try the exercises, join our mailing list for scans of all our episodes, feel free to suggest other topics in the comments, and keep on rockin'.